Hello, everyone from around the world. Welcome once again to Sandro Forte's Success Stream. Today, I have a hugely inspirational figure. She's been an inspiration to me and to many that have heard her speak. She's also an author. She does umpteen different business things as well, including the running of something called the Fellows Group, which we'll come to understand. And as an MBE, she was honored by Her Majesty the Queen back in 2007, has also been awarded an honorary doctorate at Staffordshire University for her services to business. So we have an awful lot to unpack in the next 30 minutes. So welcome, Liz Jackson, MBE, one of my all-time heroines and somebody I look up to because of everything that has happened to you. We'll talk about that in a moment, but also everything you are currently and have yet to achieve, I'm sure. So welcome to Sandro Forte's Success Stream.
Thank you. Brilliant.
So I meant it when I said inspirational because let's go back a step if we can, just to help everyone become familiar with who you are if they don't already know you. And if they don't already know you, they've been living under a stone for years. But I appreciate that there are people dialing in from many countries around the world. Liz appeared on The Secret Millionaire on Channel 4. It's one of the British television channels. So some of you will be familiar with her from there. You might have read her book. We'll talk about that. You may have come across her on the speaking circuit. We'll talk about that as well. But what, 27, 28 years ago, Liz, you started Great Guns Marketing. Just talk us through what happened just prior to the start of Great Guns Marketing.
So I went blind the year I started a business, which, was when I was 25 years old. So I think that's probably what you're referring to.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, for it to happen during, you know, the relatively early part of your life, you know, you weren't born blind, so there was a huge adjustment. How did how did that motivate and inspire you, that has in turn led to the motivation and inspiration that you now passed on in many different ways? We talked about them during the introduction, but we'll look at those in detail in a moment. You know, how do you deal with, you know, such a sudden sea change in your life, Liz? And what did you discover about yourself, and how has that helped you to do all the things you've done subsequently?
So I think, you know, looking back, it was obviously there were some challenges, but I honestly think it was a really big gift. So, you know, I know lots of entrepreneurs and people who start companies. And I think often when you start a business, you can have a bit of a kind of a poverty mentality, where you believe that you need to keep costs low. You need, you know, to try and do as much as you can and take on as much as you can. And I think what was, you know, really wonderful for me was actually I couldn't take on everything because I physically couldn't do it all anymore. And my natural gifting is communication. It's people, and particularly sales. And so I really focused in those early years on growing the company, on selling, which I'm pretty dang good at. So, you know, I've really focused on winning clients, delivering great service, recruiting brilliant people, really talented people to work around me. And what I didn't do was the stuff that I would have been really weak at anyway, you know, the VAT return, the salaries, the administrational elements of the business. Like, you know, I didn't attempt to network a PC or do any of that stuff. I outsourced it all, which meant our costs were high at the outset. But we grew at about 75% a year for almost up to 5 years. So, you know, I really just worked to my strengths the whole time. So, you know, from that perspective, it was a gift. I think also at the time, there weren't many women running scale-ups when I was 25, and there were practically no blind women. And so from a kind of PR perspective, there was a lot of free press, which, you know, building the brand, you know, getting in, you know, papers that our clients were reading. That was really important, and a massive, and another area of real leverage. So, you know, from a business building perspective, it was a huge gift for me. Which is a hard thing to describe to people when they're losing their sight, but it, you know, for me, massive gift, and in many ways, I still think it is a gift. You know, I often feel sorry for the sighted, you know, you guys that can see, because you're so distracted.
It's very inspirational and humbling to hear you say that, Liz. I'm very good friends with a very well-known lady who will be known to you as well, I'm sure. And I won't mention her name because it's not my gift to do that. But you know, she was confined to a wheelchair at a very early age as a young lady. She says now there's nothing that her chair can't do that her legs ever could have done. And she takes the same view that on the flip side of the obvious challenges that you've both had, there is an opportunity. And I think you've just described that, you know, really, really well. So we're going to go kind of around the houses, and there's no particular order to this because that's the way these success streams work. We just talk about, you know, whatever comes into our minds as any normal conversation would, I guess. Tell us about the book. I'm always fascinated to talk to people who have, you know, set about the discipline of writing a book. Not the easiest thing in the world. And when you wrote yours, there was no ChatGPT or anything like that to do it for you. So tell us about the book Startup, because you know, I've read it. I can honestly say cover to cover, it is a fabulous book. And if anybody ever wants to know about, you know, running a business, the philosophies of life, the approach that Liz and others that she inspires and motivates and mentors as well, it's a book worth reading. What inspired you to do it? Did you feel you had a story to tell? Was it a commercial opportunity? Was it a bit of both? You know, tell us a little bit about the book.
It was a bit of both. I was speaking at a conference, and there was a really amazing editor in the audience, a lady called Rachel, who worked for Pearson's. And she approached me and said, having heard you speak, I'd really like you to, you know, to put this into a book. If you will commit to doing it, we'll, you know, give you a publishing contract up front. And so, you know, I was really lucky on that front. I didn't have to, you know, send the book off to tons and tons of publishing houses or anything like that. I was just approached by the publisher to do it. And so, yeah, just sat down. I wrote the book actually with my dad, which was a lovely thing to do. He was a director at the business that I ran. So we wrote it together, which was such a joy. Actually, it's probably one of the things we've enjoyed the most when we did work together. It was just so creative, and there was just this element of really wanting to share what we'd learned with others. So it just felt like, you know, if we can put this down on paper, will we help others avoid some of the myriad of mistakes that I'd kind of made through my career, and that's why we did it. But it was a real daughter father bonding time as well, so a brilliant exercise of something to do together too.
I've never heard that, actually. I've never heard of a daughter and a father, or, you know, a child and a parent writing a book together. But actually, in terms of making lifelong memories, I spend a long weekend with my two children, twin children, Tom and Ellie, once a year, and we just every year we just go off somewhere different, and it's just the three of us. It's no husbands, wives, children, just the three of us. And you know, it's been one of the best things that I've done since we started doing those a number of years ago, because life changes, things happen, and you never get the time back again. So no, that's a lovely story, and I'm sure your dad is as proud of you as you are of him. The fellows group, tell us about that, because you know, you give an awful lot back to society, to fellow entrepreneurs. You have a group of about 200 people. Tell us a little bit about the fellows group before we talk about, you know, the business that you run today, Liz, because I'm really interested to know about, again, anybody that demonstrates any kind of philanthropic, and it's not philanthropy in the true sense, but it's the way you give back to community. Tell us about the Fellows Group, how it started, and essentially what you do.
So the business that I lead with the rest of the leadership team focuses on helping entrepreneurs build value and realize that value through a sale process. And the great honor that I get to do is at the end of that sale process, I invite them to join. As you mentioned, there's 250 now fellows, which are all these amazingly gifted people who have created a business out of nothing. They've scaled it and they've sold it. So they've got liquidity, they've got time, and they've got incredible abundance of talent. And so one of the joys that I get in life is to help connect those folks together. And actually, most people, by the time they've had that level of success in their life, their minds tend to turn to, how do I impact the world in a positive way? What kind of legacy can, I create that means that my kids and my grandkids have hope? And how can I help solve some of the big existential issues? And so that could include, investing in impact businesses. It could include getting a board position in a third sector organization. It could be kind of building a portfolio, NED portfolio, or mentoring other owners. Just a myriad of different things, and then some, of course, of the fun things, learning to sail, learning to fly, all those sorts of things as well, because life is fun, and so much of it goes back to what you were saying about time being precious with your kids. I was with a fellow the other day who said, I worked 80 hours a week for the last 20 years. And I've made so many sacrifices. What can I do now to, really impact my family in a positive way? And so, those are some of the, the more personal elements that come up as well. But it is a wonderful group of, you can imagine what fun, but what vitality there is in that network.
And the business today, the rebranded business. So, tell us about what went before and what the future looks like. Tell us about the business that you've just rebranded, so everyone's familiar, because they'll all be looking you up already, Liz. So, help us to find you, as it were.
It is a brilliant business. So the business is called Initium Corporate Finance, formerly known as BCMS. It was a business founded by a family 35 years ago, a wonderful family, very philanthropic family. And we've, as a leadership team, been running it now for the last 4 or 5 years. And 2 years ago, we had the honor of buying the business. And instead of, the leadership team buying the business for ourselves, we actually decided to do what's called an EOT transaction, which is an employee ownership trust. So there's 30 of us that run the business, and we're all co-owners of the company that we work in, which is so exciting. And we've been on this journey of, who are we? What do we specialize in? What really matters to us as a team of 30 people? And as a result of that, we just didn't feel that BCMS represented us anymore. We work on bigger deals now. Our deals are 10 million and up. And we have this journey where we're actually really focused on the shareholders and what they want, and not just the financial transaction. And so Initium is a Latin name, but it means beginnings. It also means initiative and momentum, which is, what we bring. But with every client, it's a new journey. And certainly it's definitely a new adventure. when entrepreneurs start to look at their business through a different lens, through the eyes of a buyer, and then a new adventure beyond the actual sale itself. So Initium is who we are, and the rebrand was something we did together. We as a team came up with the name. We didn't just appoint an agency and ask them to do that. Our values are a result of us telling each other stories about how we do life. And so yeah, it's been the most fantastic journey, and yeah, we just it really is an honor to serve in the business that I get to lead.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, you pack so much in. When you said earlier, Liz, that you know, when you lost your sight, you know, you had to give up a lot because you were spinning, my words, not yours, spinning lots of plates, and you had to realize that you couldn't do it that way. But it sounds to me as if you're busier than ever now. But the other thing I love about you, Liz, if you don't mind me saying it, and everyone that's listening today will have picked up on this, your effervescence, your joie de vivre, your enthusiasm for everything you do, you can hear it in your voice. It's what makes you a terrific speaker. So let's just talk about your speaking, because if everything else you've just described was not enough, you know, you travel around, you stand on stages, and you inspire and motivate people with, you know, the stories, as you say, of a myriad of mistakes, but all the successes as well. I've read countless testimonials as to those that have heard you speak and think you're amazing. I've not had the privilege of sitting in an audience, but I'm going to do something about that very soon. We'll talk about that offline. The speaking work, where does that take you? And in essence, what's your message, I guess, to audiences, wherever you take that message?
Oh, well, to come up with one sentence that describes, you know, my message is difficult. But I guess what I really hope I bring is, you know, a sense of life not being a dress rehearsal and making the most of it, and probably a sense of, you know, focus on your blessings and you know, get your mindset right every morning. Somebody told me, and you will have heard this, but it really rings true to me, you know, every day, that if you eat 3 times a day and you have a roof over your head, you're in the top 2% of the wealthiest people on the planet. And I honestly think that here in the UK, we completely take that for granted. You know, we are often well known and famous in the UK for our ability to moan.
Yeah.
And I just think life can be so much more exceptional when you kind of accept the things you can't change. But the first thing you can change is not letting your circumstances dictate, you know, what happens in your life. And I think my story, you know, does highlight that. And I also think success is something that I try and get people to rethink. You know, for me, success is the person who lives their life deliberately by, you know, deciding on their goal in life and achieving it. I don't think it's about how many Rolls Royces you buy or how many planes you fly or the, you know, the quality or the expense that you spend when you go on holiday. I don't think any of that matters. It's about deliberately living your life towards a goal that you set your sights on and achieving it. And I just love, I think, just simplifying things for people, and especially the world of business. You know, business has always been my playground. It is just the most wonderful place to be. And if there's anything, I just want to be an ambassador for the world of work, because I love work, and it's opened up so many opportunities for me in life and has gifted me with so many amazing friendships, that I can't imagine why anyone wouldn't want to be in it. So I just hope I'm an ambassador for what the world of growth and business is all about. And that's, you know, we need that, you know, across the world. We need growth in companies. And I think just inspiring people that it is so rewarding is one of the things I just love doing.
Just listening to you today, I think you're absolutely right. You are an ambassador for all that I think we strive to look for and achieve in life. And I think your definition of success, Liz, is absolutely spot on. There's lots of people who contact us on this live stream and still haven't really got to grips with it. And you know, if you take nothing else from the live stream series, then Liz's definition of success, I think, is one to take away. We can all definitely pick that one up and run with it for sure. So, you know, is there another book? Are you and Dad sitting down to do another book, or are you you're not thinking of another business or anything? What does the future hold? Because you know, you talk about success and setting your sights on something. I'm sure you are the kind of lady that has your sights on something else. Is it growing what you've already got? Is it consolidating what you got? Is it starting something afresh? Where is Liz Jackson MBE going next, dare I ask?
So, you know, you'd be surprised if I said I didn't have a goal, and we do. So I am full-time on the leadership team of the business that I run with my 3 fellow leaders. And our goal by 2030 is to become the UK's most impactful corporate finance firm. And as part of that, we'll be sharing 30% of our profits with impact organisations. So that will be a mixture of third sector charities, but it will also be investing in businesses that, you know, do things like get water into arid places so that populations can farm. It'd be things like getting people on the grid so that people can study. It's very focused around healthcare, education for low and middle income countries. That whole area is that word impact is so overused at the moment, but it's something that's at the heart of who we are as a business. And that is the place where I'll be spending a lot of my time with my fellow leaders, is building this business so that it can have that kind of impact on the world. And it's about legacy. You know, it's about, what do we want to be famous for? What do we want people to say about us? And what could be a better thing to do in the world of corporate finance, which is known generally for its ability to not share. So we just really want to be disruptive and really shake that up.
It's interesting, actually, when you mention the word disruptive. It's a shame. It's only disruptive because you see things in a different way to what we consider to be the norm, I guess. And hopefully your inspiring leadership will help to move the dial a little bit. You know, my day job, when I'm not speaking and doing this kind of thing and writing my next book, you know, is in the wealth management space. And, you know, we start on the back foot whenever we meet people, because there is a preconceived idea of what everyone else does. And so in the same way that we've tried to disrupt things in that marketplace as well, by positioning ourselves in a way that is synonymous with long-term relationships and caring and doing the right thing by people, not necessarily by ourselves. So that resonates with me completely, Liz. In terms of, you know, a few final thoughts, words of wisdom, we are going to talk offline about a speaking opportunity, which is as appeared in, you know, by happen chance, I guess. But I do think that all these things come together. You know, when you have somebody, as I have you in my mind for the last couple of days in preparing for this live stream today, this opportunity comes around. And I think visibility and the ability to communicate as you do and lead people as you do, you know, I do think it creates opportunities in and of itself. But in terms of, you know, there's a lot of people listening to this from all over the place. Some of them will know you, some of them won't, but they do now. A few kind of words of wisdom, maybe the kinds of things that you share when you're speaking to audiences, or maybe a couple of passages from your book. I'm not asking you to remember all of it, of course, but, you know, are there any standout, apart from your definition of success, which was terrific? Are there any kind of standout mantras or philosophies that you live your life by? I think we've picked up a few of them loud and clear, but if someone was to say to you, you know, I'm a bit rudderless, I don't really know which direction I'm heading in, I've got a great idea but don't know how to start, I've got a particular challenge in life, a few thoughts, words of wisdom, a few pointers on how the mere mortals amongst us deal with life, life in general. You know, how do you approach it?
Well, so I have a faith, so that really helps. That gives, and I would just urge everyone to spend some time finding the thing that makes the ground solid under their feet. For me, that's a faith, and that gives me a sense of my morality, and how I want to live my life. I've never regretted being kind, and I haven't always been kind at times, and those are the times that I've regretted. So there's a lot of talk actually in business these days about kindness. And I really hope we see it trickle into politics and other areas of life. But kindness is something that you'll never regret. And having your own personal set of values, I think, is incredibly important. So whether that comes through, just really knowing yourself well, and I think you really do have to know yourself well. And then I think you have to really believe in your goal. There's so many folks that I meet that have half-hearted ideas, or they have a vision but they're half-hearted about it. And I think if you when you set up a business or you set your sights on a goal, if you haven't got the belief that you can achieve it, and the wholehearted attempt at that goal, really going for it every day, and that you really invest in believing that you can achieve it, I just don't think you'd ever convince anyone else. And so much of achieving goals is selling an idea to others, that they need to back you, support you, become your cheerleader. So you can't do these things on your own. It's usually a team effort that gets you from A to B. And then I think it is, you can't take on too much at once. If you've got a goal, I think you have to be fairly single-minded about it. So, I'm sure, I've met lots of people who will say, well, I'd quite like to do this, but I'd also like to do that. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm probably going to do this. And I don't think that that's very sensible. I think, deciding on what you do and keeping that front and center every day until you've accomplished it is really, really important to achieving it. And then I guess our tagline as a business is, look, everyone gets somewhere in life, but a few people get there on purpose. So it's doing everything on purpose, with purpose, really being sure what your reason why is. And there is some great materials out there from the likes of, Gino Wickman and Patrick Lencioni and Jim Collins, and immerse yourself in whoever your gurus are, that give you the knowledge that you need to achieve that outcome and live life on purpose, with purpose, and just pursue it like you really want it. You just have to go for these things, and you have to be really, really resilient. I don't know anyone who achieved something outstanding that said, oh, that was easier than I thought it would be. It's never easy.
You talk, Liz, about gurus. You've named a few. I think there's a number of people from around the world today that have just established a new guru, and her name is Liz Jackson MBE. So Liz, thank you so much for joining us today. I described you at the beginning as an inspirational figure, and you absolutely are. I think I would go so far as to underline the word inspirational. Long may you continue to do what you do, the impact that you're making in the world, the philosophy you have that motivates and inspires so many of us. It's been a great pleasure talking to you again, and hopefully we get the opportunity again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you.